Weirdly enough, we've been getting less international news since the end of the Vietnam War. We basically peaked around 1970, and it's been downhill ever since. There are moments where we get more international news. Around the fall of the Berlin Wall, we got a little bit more. Weirdly enough, when we invaded Iraq, we actually didn't get meaningfully more. But it's been a very, very sharp slide. My colleague Elisa Miller, who's over at Public Radio International, did a bunch of studies on this. She found that the international news hole, the percentage of the evening newscast that was on international news was about 35% in the 1970s. It's down to about 12% now. We've conducted a bunch of research on print, and my lab and also the Media Standards Trust in the UK sees about a 45% decline in international reporting in high-quality newspapers. And I actually have to say the New York Times is sort of an exception to the rule. They actually haven't shrunk. The LA Times has shrunk, Chicago Tribune has shrunk, Miami Herald, a lot of the other big newspapers have gone down about 40 or 50% over that 40-year period. What's really interesting about this is if you think about it, reporting on Vietnam was not easy. You had to shoot film. You had to ship that film back to California and develop it and then sort of put it onto the airwaves. You know, nowadays you can put Anderson Cooper on a plane to any arbitrary location on the globe. And in fact, we probably should put him on other arbitrary locations of the globe. And you can put a video camera in front of him and you can suddenly film him. But actually, sort of pound for pound, moment for moment, we do a ton less of this. So thank goodness we've got the internet, right? So even if US newspapers, UK newspapers are giving us less of this, at least we can reach out. We can read Times of India. We can read the South China Morning Post. We can read all sorts of interesting stuff that's out there, but we don't. So another research study I did on this, I looked at what news sources we're all reading. And you can look at this from ad traffic data. You can sort of look at where people are selling ads. And it turns out that when you look at US media attention, about 94% of the page views that we give to news sites are domestic news sites. So they're the CNNs, they're the New York Times. It's about 6% for everything else. And that 6%, by the way, includes the BBC, The Guardian, you know, all of these big papers that have suddenly come in and taken a great deal of our attention. It also includes, by the way, about 1% of that 6%, sorry, about 1/6 of that 6%, 1% of the 100% are Indians reading the Times of India. That includes all of our expatriate populations living here reading news abroad. And you may be looking at this and saying, well, we're Americans, we're idiots, we're terribly parochial. Actually, we're way better than most of the Europeans. So I went and I did this study for most of the major high-use internet countries, the top 10 internet-use countries. And actually, the only people who are any better than we are the Indians, who read a lot of US and UK press.